morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
Well, by the end of February, they say you should still have half your firewood and half your hay left. Well, not quite. This has been the kind of winter where we have burned a lot of firewood to keep warm and fed a lot of hay, so we'll see. Calves should start showing up in about 3 weeks. And about this week's program, Chris Cox, as you probably know, was 4-time winner of the Road to the Horse colt starting competition. And this week, you'll hear a story or two from the days when he was growing up on a big cattle station in Australia.
My older brother, he just stood over. He didn't even get in to help, just stood over and laughed and cackled. And finally, when it looked like I had enough, he went ahead and got in there with his horse and put a rope on this bull.
And as you no doubt know, Zeke Thurston was the NFR Saddle Bronc champion in December. And no, I won't have Zeke on the show today, but you will hear from his mom. And a lot of us have had some experience trying to process cattle in less than state-of-the-art facilities. And that's what Baxter Black will be talking about.
The crew actually managed to get 24 head loaded at one time before the inside wall broke and fell over with a thud.
On the Rangeland News, some leading edge, ahead of the curve, breakthrough news about how meat might be produced without a herd of beef cows.
You can multiply cells in a control environment and create new products. They're doing leather, and next will be meat. And it sounds maybe a little weird.
On the Irvine Saddles and Western Wear horse training file, what seemed like a pretty good horse who'd been ridden for a couple of years really tried to buck his rider off, and there could be a reasonable explanation. A fascinating story behind this week's classic Song of the West, and the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight will warm your heart. Chris Cox talks about growing up in Australia after we get started with the guy who sang harmony on those wonderful Marty Robbins gunfighter ballads, Joe Babcock and his family.
Up in Cherry County near the town of Valentine, we were loading cattle on the Burlington line, when a norther came a-roaring down and the wind blew up a fright. We knew we'd never get the herd all loaded up that night. All night long we're riding strong to keep 'em in control. No lullaby can calm 'em when they hear that thunder roll. Stampede! Jim, you take the left flank then, and Bob, you take the right. Maybe we can turn 'em if they try to break the night. Then about it, for our troubles really started in, we heard shots and yelling over on that canyon rim. Bob lay dead upon the ground where they broke 'em out. Rustlers trying to run 'em off, you could hear their ugly shout. Stampede! Rustling is a dirty game and they played it all just right. They knew we couldn't hold herd on such a stormy night. Well, 1,000 steers were running wild through canyon and through glen, goaded by an outlaw band of 7 desperate men. So we vowed we'd never rest till we caught that band. Bob lay dead upon the ground where he'd made his stand. Stampede! All night long the storm blew on and lightning showed the way. We chased 'em down and caught 'em just before the break of day. They'd lost the herd and still they wouldn't give without a fight. Pistol shots and lightning flashes echoed through the night. But their shots were wild and I guess we had all the luck. 7 outlaws met their God the night the lightning struck. Stampede! Up in Cherry County near the town of Valentine, in the sandhills of Nebraska where the wind blows all the time, where the grass is tall and waving and it's such a peaceful sight. No markers show the troubles that we had that awful night. Somewhere in those hills an outlaw band ran out of luck. We lost a friend and found revenge the night the lightning struck. Stampede!
Now, Joe Babcock wrote that, and he was joined on it by his wife and his daughter, and the voice down at the bottom of the scale there was special guest Ray Walker of the Jordanaires, who sang on so many of those Elvis Presley songs. Joe Babcock also wrote a song you may recognize called I'll Be a Doggone Cowboy All My Life. It was a big hit for Marty Robbins. Well, Chris Cox is one of the few guys I know who combines an Australian accent with a Texas drawl. He was born in Florida, grew up in Australia, and later moved to Texas. And apparently in Australia, they capture bulls a little differently than we do it in North America.
Well, primarily they wasn't raised up roping over there. They were raised up catching cattle by the tail. Now, that may sound a little odd to some of our listeners, but they'd throw wild bulls by their tail, and not the way the Mexicans do it. Off of the back of a horse, but they would gallop along, and then when that bull got to throwing its feet, and it helps after they've drunk a whole belly full of water as well. But they'd grab them by the tail and pull them down and strap them, strap their hind legs together. And we actually paid for our ranch doing that and catching a lot of wild cattle. But they were great cattlemen, and still are. My brothers are still working over there, and very, very good with wild cattle, for sure.
Can you remember any specific episodes with bulls or catching wild cattle when things got out of hand or kind of went wrong, or there was one that was just a huge challenge for you?
Yeah, there was actually a bull that has been tried before, and what happens when they've been tried before, they start spreading those hind legs, and I stepped off, and I was only a kid of 15 or so, and 16, and went to try to pull this bull down, and he just spread his legs, and of course you get them when they come around to try to hook you, and I slipped on the grass there, and he was on top of me and just mauling me, and my older brother, he just stood over. He didn't even get any help, just stood over and laughed and cackled, and finally, when it looked like I had enough, he went ahead and got in there with his horse and put a rope on this bull, but it was quite a life for sure, and some of the events growing up were very memorable. I can remember riding along on this back then, 30 years ago, Appaloosas wasn't around in Australia very much, and my brother had one, and it had a little short tail on it, and it was known to buck, and we're driving these about 1,500 head of these steers, and he was riding up beside me about 7 o'clock in the morning, and had a little old branch he broke off the tree, about this, and he reached up underneath there and stuck that stick up underneath his tail. And oh my goodness, that horse bucked for seemed like 2 miles, and ran me through a barbed wire fence and threw me over in the rocks. And
now, would you have been in an Australian stock saddle?
Yeah. And contrary to what people think, you can ride a rough horse in those saddles. They can really. And that's what they're made for. A lot of those horses over there, you're on their backs. You might have ridden them 15 times, and you're on their backs chasing wild cattle at a dead gallop all day long. And it can be pretty wild. But certainly, you try to learn the way to get around them for sure.
We'll have more from Chris Cox in a little while, and coming up, you'll hear a world champion saddle bronc rider's mum when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Saddle bronc rider Zeke Thurston has had an amazing year last year, capping it off with his win at the NFR, and he has great role models. I've known his mom and dad for a lot of years. Skeeter, of course, great bronc rider himself, and his mom Linda has a long-time background in rodeo, event production, and broadcasting. And remember the rodeo reports she did across the country with Arnie Jackson a long time ago. Well, she's also a talented poet and singer, and a while back we got to talking about the way ranch wives look at us guys and our innovative ideas.
Well, Hugh, it's kind of like this. Cowboys are stubborn. And my husband will never cancel any ranch plans due to the weather. We preg check in a 50-mile-an-hour wind, even if it's -8. We trail cattle, work cattle, and we sort cattle on the coldest days of the year. And the hottest days. Now, we women, we don't go down to the garden to pick peas in a rainstorm just to see if we really are faster than lightning. No, sir, I'll tell you. We wait till the sun comes out. My husband Skeeter would willingly perish to bring in some old cow home out of the bush. There might be a 30-mile-an-hour wind blowing, a raging blizzard going on, but if he said to himself, "Well, I'm going to go get that cow today," he'd ride along until his feet were numb and his fingers were stiff. His nose was froze. And if he did make it back alive, he'd never admit that it actually was cold or that it was a dumb idea. I'm pretty sure he'd say something like this. "Well, I got that cow today. I had a little trouble. I had to rope her and she choked down. Well, actually, she was blowing snot all over my rope, and being that it was a little windy, my hondu froze, so I couldn't cut her any slack, and, well, actually, she died. But I just waited until she stiffened up, which took about 5 minutes, being that it was a little cold, and then I skidded her home. She come along real sweet, just like a toboggan. And I guess being that we just butchered, well, I got her hung up in the barn. And we could get to her if the barn cats don't eat on her too much. It sure was good that I went and got that cow today. I don't know how much longer she could have lasted out there."
Yeah, you're just always innovative. Find a way to do it. Now, Linda wrote most of the songs on the CD Genuine Cowgirls, and here's a real nice one from there about ranch wives, and it's called Tough and Tender.
Working in the hot sun, riding in the big wind, trudging through the deep snow when it's 40 below, facing the banker, paying the bills, nursing her babies through all of their ills. She's tough and tender, hard as steel, sweet as a flower. She can make you feel like it'll be alright, like you ain't gonna lose. She's tough and tender when she's loving you. She's tough and tender when she's loving you. Take a listen she gives, forgiving your faults, praying for tomorrow, seed that she sows, hoping that maybe the ends will meet, loving her man when she's dead on her feet. She's tough and tender, hard as steel, sweet as a flower. Make you feel like it'll be alright, like you ain't gonna lose. She's tough and tender when she's loving you. She's tough and tender when she's loving you.
Linda Thurston. And Linda, you and Skeeter, like Billy and I, have been through a lot, running a cattle operation together as husband and wife. And as you know, that does lead to, I guess some stressful times. But all in all, it's pretty good.
Well, Hugh, ranching can be stressful for couples. And I think that the really good thing that makes most ranch marriages work is that husbands and wives definitely share an interest in the horses and the land and the cattle, but I think that for most people the big tension comes in when we talk about finances, and that's partly because in agriculture the financial picture has never been bleaker. And I'm not too sure that a lot of couples maybe haven't experienced something similar. It was the month of October when I strolled into the office uptown. It was time I sought help for this problem before the whole ship went down. "Can I help you?" she politely inquired. "Why, I think so," I desperately stammered. "Is it you?" the sweet lady asked. "Or your husband who likes to get hammered?" "It's my husband, of course, who's addicted." She felt sorry for me, I could tell. "I'm his enabler, they say, but I'm fed up, and this time I'm madder than hell." "Excuse me, I must have all the details. Is it drugs or alcohol your husband likes to abuse?" "Gambling," I shamefully whispered. "I don't know how much more we can lose." There, come sit down. We must counsel. When did this problem begin?" "Before I got married," I blubbered. "I thought I could overlook just one sin." "Do you help him continue this habit?" I very sheepishly had to agree. "Exactly what do you do that allows him to go on this big gambling spree?" "I sacrifice for the sake of the children." "How many?" "Oh, we have just 4. So you must love him, or else after the first one you wouldn't have had any more." "Well, I love him, of course. It's just that I'm tired of constantly losing it all." "And when does this happen most?" "Oh, when they go to town in the fall." "Who goes to town? Does he run round with friends?" "Oh, yes, they all sit together so sad, knowing there ain't a darn thing they can do, and some of them's into it bad. They keep losing, but all of them start over, with great hope at the start of the year. But it always ends up with cash down the drain and a trip to the banker in fear." "My goodness, it sounds like a real problem. Is it card tables and dice or machines?" "Heck no," I confoundedly answered, then wondered how to come clean. "It's cattle," I angrily shouted. "Always more than we can afford, and we never can turn a profit, but we keep feeding the whole damn horde." "I'm sorry," she said. "I can't really help you. There's a reason I've got this job in town. One winter, while my husband and I were chopping water holes, he slipped, and I let him drown."
I don't think Billy should even hear that. Yeah, we've been there. Oh, gee. Thanks for doing this. This is great. Well, something else Billy and I have are vivid memories of processing cattle or trying to load them in facilities that were less than state-of-the-art. Why is it that fixing the broken boards and the rails and the gates and the corrals always gets moved down the list of priorities? Well, that's what Baxter Black talks about when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan with a little peek at the chain gang. What holds the loaded 30,000-pound trailer to the heavy-duty truck? What holds the 38-foot RV trailer to the dually? What holds the 2-horse trailer with your daughter's favorite pony to the half-ton pickup? Well, the odds are it's a B&W trailer hitch, probably a turnover bowl, American-made, employee-owned, customer-tuned, and proud of their part in America's greatness. B&W, holding things together down the road. Miles and his wife decided to buy 40 head of yearling heifers. They planned to synchronize their heat cycles and breed them artificially. They got the Synchromate B and scheduled a breeding date. Well, Miles had intentions to reinforce and repair his corral, but he got busy with other things, so when the neighbor showed up to help, his working facility still looked like the deck of an abandoned trawler. They corralled the heifers and started them up the crowd alley toward the chute. Being smallish, the crew actually managed to get 24 head loaded at one time before the inside wall broke and fell over with a thud. The heifers trampled over the downboards and escaped back into the corral. Well, Miles grabbed a chunk of tow chain from his pickup bed. With the neighbor's help, he pushed the side of the alley upright and secured it across the top with the chain. It held while they ran the heifers back through and applied the rest of the implants. 9 days later, Miles enlisted the help of his long-suffering wife, Linda, to remove the implant pellets. She was working the head gate. He was often forced to get behind the heifers in the alley and push them up, and Linda constantly reminded him about the chain. Well, by the time they were down to the last 2 heifers, Linda was working at the head end with the flashlight. Miles had meant to get the floodlight fixed too, but every time he thought of it, it was broad daylight. The last heifer turned around in the chute and ran back over the top of Miles for the second time. He ran after her, cursing, and chased her back up the alley, screaming and whacking at her with a flat stick. He reared back with his arm at full gallop, just as Linda said, "Watch out for the—" Miles hit the chain just about pencil pocket high. His feet shot straight out, his chin hooked the chain, and he stopped short of making a complete counterclockwise revolution when gravity overcame velocity and he dropped from the air like a hog carcass from a C-47. Plop. The heifer whirled and galloped over him like a footlog. Well, 2 years have passed. Miles still has good intentions, but a lot of cows have passed under that chain since then, and every time he thinks about fixing it, something else comes up. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, brought to you by B&W Turnover Bowl.
How about a weekend pass to the 21st Annual Kamloops Cowboy Festival, March 16th to 19th, 2017. A terrific lineup of entertainers, including Kevin David.
Early morning finds me out along the Great Divide. I stop and watch the prairie come alive.
Jay Snyder.
Imagine you're a cowboy, and breaking colts is what you do, and you've honed your skills for years and years, and other cowboys look up to you.
The one and only Ben Crane.
And me with checking cows in Saskatchewan sandy hills.
And so many more. There's the BC Cowboy Hall of Fame inductions, dinner shows, evening concerts, a wonderful art and gear show, the Art of the West show and sale, workshops, and everything from guitar playing to saddle making. The best place to get all the details is bcchs.com. And for tickets, call 1-888-763-2221. Tom Cole sent us a DVD of his recent Live from the Living Room concert in Fort St. John, and boy, it was terrific. Now, my little brother Jim was playing lead guitar in the band, and Chantel Wilms played fiddle and banjo, and her and Jim did a duet that was really something. And she also played on our Creek of the Leather CD. And here she is with the rest of her family.
It hasn't rained in quite a while now, and no one knows what to do. The grass is turning brown, and all the crops are dying too. The cows are running out of feed, the hay looks mighty small. But God, I know that you're still in control of it all. Even if it doesn't rain. If we don't soon get some moisture, we'll be sending cows away. I hate the thought of selling, but we don't have enough hay. Please give us the rain we need, but even if you don't, I won't turn away from you. I promise that I won't. Even if it doesn't rain.
Mark your calendar for Ulrich Herford's 11th annual bull sale, Tuesday, February 21st, 1 p.m. at Baylog Auction, Lethbridge, Alberta. On offer, approximately 50 top quality bulls, and you can see them at ulrichherfords.com. These bulls are the sons of industry leaders, and for more information, call Peter, 403-625-1036. That number again, 403-625-1036. Ulrich Hereford, specializing in light birth weights with great performance plus remarkable cows. That's February 21st, 1 p.m. at Baylog Auction, Lethbridge, Alberta.
Now the news of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West.
At the top of page 1, it says, "The future is approaching at a rate of acceleration faster than we have ever experienced." And how are some of the big breakthroughs going to affect cattle ranchers, for example? Now, beef in pretty large volumes can be grown in a lab, not out on the range. Really? Well, it sounds like it. Let's get the story from Gary Crawford.
On a recent episode of the CBS Modern Sherlock Holmes series Elementary, Holmes and Watson track down a clue, a package or slab of strange meat that leads them to a food science company lab where they get an explanation of what we might call fake meat.
No, it's 100% American beef. We just grow it here in the lab instead of on a cow. Well, muscle is made of cells. We harvest those cells humanely from living animals and replicate them here.
It's a work in progress.
Now that won't sit well with the good farmers and ranchers who raise livestock, but an investigator at MIT, Caleb Harper, says,
If you want to go to the far future, you're talking about cultivated meat, not raising animal proteins with the bone, the ligament, the brain, the eyes, all the things that we don't eat. You can multiply cells in a control environment and create new products. They're doing leather, and next will be meat. And it sounds maybe a little weird.
Yes, weird, but experts say it likely will not replace conventional livestock production as the main source of our meat. Hope not. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.
I hope not too, Gary, or all the cowboys will be wearing lab coats. Well, prices for feed barley and wheat are unlikely to rally strong anytime soon as producers across Western Canada continue to dump supplies containing high concentrations of vomitoxin and fusarium into feedlots. Alan Piernes of Marketplace Commodities in Lethbridge says they're looking to clean up the worst of the stuff by springtime. He said barley is going for $160 per ton or slightly more, and feed wheat is a little bit weaker. So $150 to $155 is the spread they're seeing, he said. The feedlot price the farmer should see is in the low 150s. He said the export value of the low-quality feed is unknown, but there should be enough of it to keep the domestic market well supplied for a while. Boston, Massachusetts will be the scene of an event called A Taste of Canada, June the 5th and 6th. Taste of Canada is an agri-food buyer-seller forum where Canadian suppliers can showcase their food products in a tabletop setting while meeting one-on-one with pre-screened American importers, buyers, and distributors from the retail and food service industries. Product categories include bakery and desserts, seasonings, specialty oils, meal solutions, frozen meals, non-alcoholic beverages, seafood, and specialty foods and snacks. And the event is being organized by Alberta Agriculture and Forestry in collaboration with the Consulate General of Canada in Boston and other provincial partners. With calf prices down, fuel prices up, carbon tax, and part of the prairie cattle herd being depopulated, it's pretty hard to find some good news. But China's decision to allow bone-in Canadian beef from cattle under 30 months of age is another positive sign for the industry, at least according to the Canadian Cattlemen's Association. The move expected to boost exports by about $10 million per year, and the recent expansion of access to Mexico and Taiwan is increasing opportunities for Canadian beef producers, according to CCA President Dan Darling. If we can also get the Trans-Pacific Partnership implemented and viable access to Europe, the long-term potential should send the right signal for beef producers to increase their herds. We can produce more beef with confidence if we know the markets will be open to purchase it. Well, there's a tip of the Golden Stetson going to Tom Thompson of the Winding Creek Ranch near Mayerthorpe on winning the 2017 Alberta Beef Producers Environmental Stewardship Award. Tom, his dad Ron, and his son Cole run the operation that'll calve out about 200 mother cows this spring. March the 4th at the BC Livestock Co-op Yards in Williams Lake, it's the prime time cutting-edge bull sale. Get the information from Williams Lake, the Williams Lake Yards, their number, 250-398-7174. And they have a lot of special sales coming up. You can check the website bclivestock.bc.ca. And over the mountains, there's regular cattle sales every Wednesday at the Innisfail Auction Market and 2 horse sales a month. Lots of special bull and bred cow sales coming up, too. You can get all their information at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. That brings us down to the final item. And, you talk about communication, and it can go so wrong so easily. Our good neighbor Ken and his wife went into one of our local building supply stores with his flat deck trailer behind his pickup. And the guy on duty in the yard came out and asked what he wanted. Ken said, "I need about 25 4x2s. "Don't you mean 2x4s, the guy said. "Well, just a minute," Ken said. He went back and checked with his wife, and then he told the guy, "Yeah, I mean 2x4s. And then the guy says, "Well, how long do you need them?" And Ken says, "Just a minute." Went back to his truck, and then he came back and he said, "For a real long time, we're building a barn for the horses." And I guess that's the Rangeland News. Coming up on the Irvine Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, we'll try to determine why a good horse suddenly tried to buck his rider off during a clinic. And there's more from Chris Cox, too, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Coming up, it's the Irvine Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File. And I mentioned Tom Coles live from the Living Room concert, and he did this one live on stage, and he also included it on his latest CD called Chronicles.
This is the last cowboy song, the end of 100-year waltz. The voices are sad as they're singing along. Another piece of America's lost. He rides the feedlots and clerks at the market on weekends, selling tobacco and beer. His dreams of tomorrow are surrounded by fences, but he'll dream tonight of when fences weren't here. He blazed a trail with Lewis and Clark, eyeball to eyeball, old Wyatt back down. He stood shoulder to shoulder with Travis in Texas, and rode with the 7th when Custer went down. This is the last cowboy song, the end of 100-year waltz. The voices are sad as they're singing along. Another piece of America's lost. Remington showed us how he looked on canvas. Louis L'Amour, he has told us his tale. Waylon and Willie and me sing about him and wish hard that we could have ridden his trail. Now the old Chisholm Trail, it's covered in concrete. They haul them to market in 50-foot rigs. They roll past his marker, never slowing to read.
like living and dying was already dead. This is the last cowboy song, the end of 100-year waltz. The voices are sad as they're singing along. Another piece of America's lost. This is the last cowboy song, the end of 100-year waltz. The voices are sad as they're singing along. Another piece of America's lost.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
Well, this horse, for some reason, although he'd been a good horse, started to buck right in the middle of a clinic. But there may have been a good reason. Experience the true spirit of the West at Canada's largest Western store, Irvine Tack and Western Wear. If you need a curb strap or a 4-star gooseneck trailer, you'll find it here. A saddle for every rider. Cutters, reiners, penners, trainers, working ranch cowboys, ropers. They have over 1,200 in stock. And they have Western wear for the entire family. And how about a gift card? Shop online at irvinesaddles.ca. Free shipping on orders of over $100. irvinesaddle.ca, 1-877-946-9494. Well, I heard from a lady who's a very good rider, and she has a very good horse. She'd been riding this half-Arab gelding for a couple of years. Recently, she had him at a clinic with a good trainer. The horse did everything he was asked for the first 2 days, although the trainer thought maybe he looked a little tentative on day 2. On the 3rd day, after riding a few circles, she took him to the far end of the arena, and for some reason, he bogged his head and went into a fit of bucking, complete with the squeals and the grunts. She managed to ride him through it, and after a few minutes, he seemed to be okay again. Now, what the heck brought this on? Okay, well, when a horse seems okay for a long time, and then something like this happens, it's almost always an indication of a physical problem causing pain or severe discomfort. Now, there are a few things you can look for. Have someone lead the horse away at a walk, and watch for his hips to move up and down equally on each side. If one moves up or down less than the other, there is a problem. Watch the line from the highest point of his butt to the tail head, and his back should move equally from side to side. And then run your hand down the horse's back, fingers on one side of his spine, thumb on the other. If he dips his back at some points, when you do that, he's obviously sore. Now, sometimes these symptoms can lead to painful muscle cramps, and that can trigger the bucking. Sometimes with a horse that does this, it's a good idea to have him checked by a qualified equine chiropractor. And that being said, there are some horses that can really develop a bucking habit and get pretty good at it. Lots of good ranch horses can carry a cowboy all day long doing all kinds of ranch jobs, but the first few minutes in the saddle will be challenging, especially on a cold, frosty morning. And I've seen cases where the cowboy's done lots of work to warm the horse up from the ground, and then still have him buck some when he gets on. Not what I want anymore, but there are lots of good young hands that that's no problem for. Something that is no problem is giving our horses that daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration. You can find out more at hoffmanshorseration.com. And that's the Horse Training File for Irvine Saddles and Western Wear. Enjoy the Kamloops Cowboy Festival without the worry of winter driving. Frontier Bus Lines will leave Central Alberta March 16th and return on March 20th. And the package includes luxury motor coach transportation, 4 nights accommodation at the Coast Hotel and Conference Center in Kamloops, $15 daily meal coupon, one transfer to the Horse Barn, weekend pass to the Cowboy Festival, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday dinner and entertainment at the Convention Center. For more information, call 1-888-538-7287. Well, just before, more from Chris Cox. I sure like this one from Fred Hargrove, who, among many other things, managed Michael Martin Murphy's ranch.
Life out on the range might look mighty strange to some folks like you, but it's the life for me. I can't think where I'd rather be, attending them cattle till my day is through. The sun and the snow and the freezing rain, most folks think that I'm insane, working right out in that mess. But the cattle, they depend on me to keep them watered and fed and healthy. Being out there is a living at its best. I'm riding, roping, I'm loping, doctoring, worming, and branding. When my day's work is done, I might go and have some fun, rodeoing, laughing, and dancing. Enchanted mountains stare at me, make me feel wild and free, even though I might draw short pay. And an eagle soaring overhead, behind this the brilliant sky is red. In the west I know I'll always stay. Hey, my dog barks at a coyote's howl as I look at my saddle pal. Yeah, I know that we both feel the same. We're riding under thunder clouds, lightning cracks, it sounds so loud. Once again we're caught out in the rain. We're riding, roping, we're loping, doctoring, worming, and branding. When our day's work is done, we might go and have some fun, rodeoing, laughing, and dancing. Well, I just dropped my coffee cup, trying to start this tractor up, because my truck's stuck out in the mud. Yesterday I learned who's boss. My cow horse gave me a toss, and I landed with a thud. So I live with adversity, I don't let it get to me. The cowboy life is the life I lead. Give me stars and give me space, then you'll see it on my face. The cowboy life is all I'll ever need. To be riding, roping, and loping, doctoring, worming, and branding. And when my day's work is done, I might go and have some fun, rodeoing, laughing, and dancing. I'll be rodeoing, ranching, and dancing.
Boy, I have been really fortunate to get to spend time with so many superb horsemen, and I just love picking their brains and comparing notes with so many of them. And Chris Cox is a great example.
You know, it's a very unique situation when you can see an animal touch and understand and get the message and start to bond, and you know, it's pretty special to see that trust start coming your way, for sure.
Even after all the years I've been involved in it, I still get emotional when I see it work. When you see that colt, he gets it. He confidently steps up over that bridge, or he'll stop right there on the bridge, or the guy will pick up the rope and drag the log at a trot. And that colt understands, that's my job. I already know I can do this,
I think that's the biggest thing. You just said a mouthful there, We're losing jobs for these horses. And if we don't keep a job for them, they're going to get bored, These horses have been overbred, overfed, and underridden for so many years. And we've got to be able to keep giving them a job and putting cattle in front of them or something that gives a purpose to what we're doing.
You can ride a horse that is pretty well broke, rides pretty well, and you can stay in his comfort zone. Every day, you're always doing the things he understands, but you never take him past that comfort zone. And I think you said it's pretty important to develop that colt by taking him just a little beyond that. Every chance you get, every day, challenge him just a little bit more. Otherwise, if he's never in that situation that's one step out of his comfort zone, he's not going to know how to handle it.
Well, it's what we call it a learning curve. They got to be able to keep wanting to learn the same way with yourself. And if that colt is open to be able to be going to that next step each and every time that you ride them, then that's the confidence that comes in there. But if you become complacent, they become complacent. And then when you go to approaching something new, that's when the fuss begins, because they don't want to ever get out of that comfort zone, for sure.
We'll dig way down into the vault for another classic song of the West and the story behind the song, and then a piece of cowboy poetry that'll warm your heart, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Our look at another classic Western song this week brings back one that just seems to blow through your mind like a prairie breeze while your horse ambles along an easy trail. Written by Hall of Fame songwriter Billy Hill. And Billy was so desperate for money, he almost sold his best-known song for $25. The song immediately shot up to number 1 and stayed there for 9 weeks. When Billy was working on a ranch in Montana, he asked one of the cowboys why they continued to ride in a roundup when they got old. The cowboy told him there was a time when they had to stop, and that would be their last one. And right after a brief conversation with this guy, the cowboy was killed when his horse fell on him, and Hill never forgot that accident and used it as a basis for the song. And here's a guy who is Gene Autry's lead guitar player and a fine songwriter himself. His best-known song probably was Hot Rod Lincoln, Johnny Bond, and Billy Hill's Last Roundup.
Get along, little doggy, get along, get along, get along, little doggy, get along. Get along, little doggy, get along, get along, get along, little doggy, get along. I'm heading for the last roundup. Gonna saddle old Paint for the last time and ride. He's going home. So long, old pal, it's time your tears were dry. I'm heading for the last roundup. Get along, little doggy, get along, get along, get along, little doggy, get along. Get along, little doggy, get along, get along, get along, little doggy, get along. I'm heading for the last roundup. To the faraway ranch of the boss in the sky. Boss in the sky. Where the strays are counted and branded, there go I. Heading for the last roundup. heading for the last roundup.
Now in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, Woody Paul's beautiful melody is the backdrop for Ranger Doug's recitation of the Cowboy Way.
It's the courage of the pioneers who crossed a continent's span. It's the spirit of the red men who shed their blood to save their land. It's the will to know the truth, good or bad, come what may. It's a heart that's free and grateful. It's the cowboy way. It's the strength to say you're sorry, to admit that you were wrong. It's the wisdom, too, to recognize the times you must be strong. It's a love of nature's creatures and their struggle in their play. It's the quiet flame of justice. It's the cowboy way. It's the hand to help a neighbor or a stranger in their need. It's the love of humankind without a thought of race or creed. It's the courage of convictions without posture or display. It's the peaceful sleep of children. It's the cowboy way. It's the moment that you take before the words you might regret. It's the time you give to others with no thought of what you'll get. It's the time you take in smelling all the roses on the way. It's doing just the best you can. It's the cowboy way.
I just want to thank you so much for taking time out to make the ride this week, and I sure hope you can join us right here next week at the same time. Now, if you are looking for tractor parts, check out bctractorparts.com. Mark McMillan of the Spirit of the West support crew can help you there. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.